Hurt her ego and she will love you madly. Listen, I know that title sounds extreme, maybe even harsh, but stay with me because what I'm about to show you isn't about being cruel. It's about understanding a psychological trigger that most men completely miss. And when you get this right, something shifts. She stops seeing you as predictable. She stops putting you in the friend zone. She starts wondering why you're different from every other guy who's been easy to figure out. I'm going to break down exactly what this means, why it works, and how to do it without becoming someone you're not. Because here's what most men don't realize. The way you treat her ego determines whether she sees you as a challenge worth pursuing or just another guy seeking her approval. This isn't about games. This is about balance. And by the end of this, you'll understand the one thing that separates men she forgets from men she can't get out of her head. And here's the crazy part. The more you've been trying to make her feel special, the more you've been pushing her away. I'll explain why in just a second. So, let's start with the uncomfortable truth. Why being too nice to her ego is killing your chances. And if you think respecting her means never challenging her, you're about to see why that's costing you everything. The truth about her ego. Her ego. Picture this. You compliment everything she does. You agree with every opinion she shares. When she posts a picture, you're the first to comment with hard eyes. You never disagree, never push back, never make her work for your validation. And somehow, the more you worship her, the less she respects you. Sound familiar? Keep watching because this gets worse before it gets better. Here's what's really happening. You're not respecting her, you're pedestaling her. And deep down, she knows the difference. When you treat someone like they're perfect, like they can do no wrong, like their ego should never be questioned, you're doing something dangerous. You're removing all tension from the dynamic, and attraction dies in comfort. Think about it. Every person she's ever been obsessed with made her feel something unpredictable. They didn't hand her their approval on a silver platter. They made her earn it. They challenged her worldview. They didn't crumble when she tested them. But you're safe, predictable, always available, always validating, always there to boost her ego no matter what. And that's exactly why she doesn't feel anything for you. Now, before you think I'm telling you to be a jerk, hold on. Because what I'm about to reveal is the exact opposite of what you think. Because here's the reality. A healthy ego needs resistance. It needs to be checked. It needs to encounter someone who isn't afraid to see through the performance. When you never challenge her ego, when you worship instead of relate to her as an equal, you're not showing respect. You're showing weakness, and she can feel it. In fact, there's a specific moment where she decides you're not the one, and it happens earlier than you think. I'll show you exactly when in just a minute. So, if constant validation pushes her away, what actually draws her in? That's where the real psychology begins. How to challenge her ego the right way. How to challenge her ego the right way. Before we go deeper, just do one thing for me. Hit the like button. If this is already making sense, what's coming next is going to change how you approach every interaction. Let's keep going. Here's the first principle, and it goes against everything you've been taught. Stop agreeing with everything she says. Not to be difficult, not to argue for the sake of it, but because you actually have your own thoughts, your own standards, your own perspective. When she says something you disagree with, say so calmly, confidently, without apologizing for having a different view. I actually see it differently. That's interesting, but I think you're missing something. Now, I don't agree with that at all. This does something powerful. It shows her you're not performing for her approval. You're not shape-shifting into whatever version of yourself you think she wants. You're just you. Take it or leave it. And that confidence, that's what creates attraction. But here's where most guys mess this up. They disagree just to disagree, and that backfires hard. Let me show you the right way to do it. Next, don't always be impressed. Be impressed. She tells you about some achievement, some accomplishment, something she's clearly proud of. And instead of falling over yourself with praise, you acknowledge it and move on. That's cool. What's next for you? Not cold, not dismissive, just unbothered. Because impressive people don't get overly impressed by others. They recognize value without worshiping it. This recalibrates her entire perception of you. Suddenly, you're not like the other guys who treat her like a celebrity. You're someone operating on the same level. And watch what happens next. Her brain does something fascinating when you respond this way. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Playfully call out her behavior. When playfully call out her behavior, she's being dramatic. Don't validate the drama. Smile and say, "You're being extra right now." When she's fishing for compliments, don't take the bait. Say, "You already know you look good. Why do you need me to tell you?" When she tests you with attitude, don't react emotionally. Stay calm and say, "Is that how we're doing this today?" This single shift in how you respond will change everything. And I mean everything. This isn't being mean. This is refusing to play along with ego-driven behavior. And when you do this, something clicks in her mind. You're not desperate for her approval. You have standards, you have boundaries, and that's rare. Here's another layer. Create space when she creates space when she expects attention. Expects attention. She sends you a selfie clearly looking for validation. Don't respond immediately with the desperate she's expecting. Wait. Reply later with something neutral or even skip it entirely. She posts something online. Don't be the first one there. Don't always be available to boost her ego in public. Why? Because when your validation isn't guaranteed, it becomes valuable. She starts wondering why you're not reacting the way everyone else does. And that question marks the beginning of intrigue. Now, pay close attention to this next part because this is where average guys become unforgettable. But here's the most important part. Build a life that doesn't revolve around her. This is the foundation everything else rests on. You can't hurt her ego in a healthy way. If your entire identity is wrapped up in getting her attention, hit the gym, build your career, develop skills, spend time with friends, create moments worth sharing. When she sees you're genuinely focused on your own growth, when she realizes she's not the center of your universe, her ego takes a hit. But not in a destructive way, in a way that makes her rethink her position. She thought she had you figured out. She thought you'd always be there waiting, validating, chasing, and now you're not. And this is the exact moment everything flips. She goes from being the prize to wanting to be your prize. That disrupts her entire mental model of who you are. Finally, when you do give her attention, make it count. This is the balance. You're not ignoring her completely. You're not being cold or cruel. You're just selective. When you compliment her, make it specific. Make it about something real, not just her appearance, her mind, her humor. Something that shows you actually see her, not just the Instagram version. But don't do it constantly. Make it rare enough that it stands out. And here's the secret timing that makes this 10 times more powerful. And when the dynamic shifts, when she starts reaching out more, starts investing more, don't immediately go back to your old patterns. Stay consistent with your standards. That's how you go from being forgettable to unforgettable. The real point of all this, look, I know this might sound manipulative, but here's what it really is. It's self-respect. It's refusing to shrink yourself to make someone else feel superior. It's treating her like an equal, not a goddess. It's understanding that real attraction comes from mutual respect, not one-sided worship. And if you've been doing the opposite until now, don't worry. I'm about to show you how to turn this around. Even if you've already messed up when you challenge her ego in healthy ways, you're not tearing her down. You're inviting her to rise up and meet you at your level. You're showing her what it's like to be with a man who has his own identity, his own standards, his own life. A man who doesn't need her validation to feel whole. And ironically, that's exactly what makes her want to be part of your world. The guys who understand this never chase. They choose. And they're the ones she thinks about at night. So stop pedestaling. Stop seeking approval. Stop treating her ego like it's fragile. Treat her like a human being. Challenge her when it's needed. Stand your ground. Live your life. And watch what happens when you stop and start choosing yourself. Because here's the truth nobody talks about. The moment you stop needing her is the moment she starts needing you. If this hit different, drop a comment with the word respect. So I know you're ready to level up and hit that subscribe button because we're just getting started. Seriously, if you made it this far, you're already ahead of 90% of guys out.